And one of my closest childhood friends' mom calls me and she says, "Hey, Jake, Ryan is looking at going away to prison and he's been arrested. And I was wondering if there's anyone at your dad's church that could go down there and visit him." And I started to explore that, reaching out to the different individuals that I knew that were in the outreach department or care department and seeing if there was a prison ministry or volunteers that could go visit them. And at that time, they didn't have anything. And I felt like it was an Isaiah moment. I felt like God was saying, "Hey, this is me calling you to this." And what started as a visitation quickly grew to a passion.
Well, hey crew, it's Adam. I am so excited that you're tuning in, and I don't take it lightly that you would. This is The Conversation, and today we're at episode 253, and today we are talking about something that is near and dear to my heart. Listen to this. Each year, over 2.3 million people in the United States are in prison, and listen to this. This group of people are the most unchurched and unreached population in our country. Today, friends, in these next 28 or so minutes, my hope is if you're trying to figure out how to make a difference with your life, or you're walking through an unpretty part of being human, I want you to know that you are not alone. Before we go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to today's partner. Each week, these partners help make the conversation possible. Today, our partner is one that I love. It is Vern Ide. Vern Ide Motor Cars is a faith-based, employee-owned company that sells cars, trucks, tractors, boats, snowmobiles, you name it. They most likely have it. I just purchased my newest vehicle from them, a brand new Outlander, and I absolutely love this ride. It's without question the nicest vehicle I've ever had. Both Jared and Hope at Vern Ide were incredible to work with. To this day, I can text them a question. Hey, how do I do this? Hey, how do I do that? And they have been so helpful. I'm just saying, no matter what kind of vehicle you're looking for, and no matter where you live, they will ship it to you. Go visit vernide.com. Okay, so today I'm talking with the founder of an organization called God Behind Bars. And I first heard about GBB about 5-6 years ago. And if you don't yet, you need to go follow them on Instagram. Go find them, God Behind Bars. Go find them. If you need a good cry, watch one of their reels. I'll promise that that's what will happen. You will cry. But since I first heard about GBB, I have dreamed and prayed about launching a campus through Embrace at a prison here in South Dakota. Again, people who are incarcerated are the most unchurched and unreached population in our country. More than that, Jesus specifically told us to care for and love and reach the prisoner. Well, this last November, Embrace launched a GBB campus at Mike Durfee State Prison, and last week's service, we got to baptize 25 men, and it was one of the coolest worship services, honestly, one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of. So today's guest is Jake Bodine. Again, he is the founder of GBB. Jake shares a part of his own story and how GBB got started, and I just want to say, so many people hear from God, but it seems like most people rarely do what God tells them to do. Well, Jake heard from God, and then he went and did it. Friends, I hope you are inspired, moved to action, and changed by this conversation. On that note, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation.
I grew up actually in a ministry family my entire life. My father has led a church in Las Vegas for over 25 years, and it's a very large church. In fact, they are the largest church in Las Vegas. And when I was in high school, I really didn't want to have anything to do with church or God. I think a little bit of it came as being, the pressure of a pastor's kid, and you got to always rebel at some level. But no, I was really focused on football, and I was pretty good at it. And I kind of let the hype of my little bit of fame at the time get in my head, and the church crowd wasn't the crowd that I was hanging out with. I was hanging out with all of my football guys and the popular crowd, and going to parties and doing the things that a normal, I guess, high school kid would. And it wasn't until college that something happened. I was supposed to be a hometown boy and stay and play at UNLV. I went to the first practices of spring training, and this was a year that the NCAA clearinghouse put a new rule into effect, and I was kind of one of the guys that got axed over not taking a SAT while I was in high school, and so I had to push to the junior college level for 2 years, play there, get my associate's degree, and transfer back. And while I did that, when I moved to Southern California, kind of the only familiarity that I had was the local church. And so I kind of plugged into a local church down there where my dad had some friends and some connections. And those were really the only people that I knew at the time. And I started attending every single Sunday. And the pastor, he was pretty good. His name's Pastor Rick Warren. I'm sure that some of you guys have heard of him over the years, but started to really inspire me to think outside of myself and think more kingdom minded during that time in my life. And I had kind of grown a passion over the time that I was there to go into ministry of some sort. I didn't know what it was at that time, but I knew that God was calling me to something greater than football, and I began to explore what that was. In fact, on August 18th, I believe, 2008, is the day that I gave my life to Christ at Saddleback Church. And I kind of went all in. We were talking about this a little earlier, is I don't think much. I kind of just do and figure it out as I go. And so I ended up quitting football about 3 to 4 weeks into the season, packing up my apartment, not even telling my parents, and just showing up at their door in Las Vegas with my U-Haul because I didn't want to be talked out of it. And when I got there, my dad was pretty skeptical, I would say, of where I was at in my journey and me telling him that I wanted to go into ministry. But he kind of gave me the opportunity to volunteer at some of their different campuses while I was kind of exploring this idea. Whoa. And one day I was out at a high school that they were kind of doing portable church in, where they would set up and tear down inside of this high school for one of their satellite locations. And one of my closest childhood friends' mom calls me and she says, "Hey, Jake, Ryan is looking at going away to prison, and he's been arrested. And I was wondering if there's anyone at your dad's church that could go down there and visit him." And I started to explore that, reaching out to the different individuals that I knew that were in the outreach department or care department and seeing if there was a prison ministry or volunteers that could go visit them. And at that time, they didn't have anything. And I felt like it was an Isaiah moment. I felt like God was saying, "Hey, this is me calling you to this." And what started as a visitation quickly grew to a passion for these individuals and these people, understanding who Ryan was as a person versus the situation that he was currently facing. And I knew that he was lovable. I knew that he was a good guy at his core, and that he had just got himself caught up in some pretty bad situations and was now facing the consequences of them. And I said,
"Yeah, Jake, I was going to ask, how old are you at this age? How long you've been following Jesus, and keep going. But how did you go from visiting your buddy even to a worship service? Keep going on all that, basically."
Yeah. I would have been 18 years old at the time. So I was a baby still, and I was a baby in my walk. I was probably only 3 or 4 months into my walk with Christ before I got called into this opportunity. But during that time of visitation, I was obviously meeting more people and hearing about different situations within the jail. And I grew to know that that the majority of people that were facing these consequences were just like Ryan. They were people. They were moms, they were dads, they were brothers, sisters, grandparents, children of somebody. And many of them had good hearts, wanted to change, but needed someone to show them that true change was possible. And so it started with a small group Bible study that I would do inside of the jail with 15 to 20 different people, which quickly grew to, "Jake, you're not the best communicator, nor are you qualified to anybody 5 months into your walk. Maybe I could play this DVD of the church that I attend here inside of the prison every single week on a small television, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
We don't want to we don't want to be picky. I mean, we're in prison, but can we up the preaching game just a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm kind of a big thinker and push against the mold a lot of the times. And technology is one of those things that, especially in prison, up until, well, especially in 2009, was not accepted at very much of a level at all. So when I said, "Hey, I want to bring in this IMAX theater screen," that God gave me this vision one day while I was inside of this jail that, hey, we could set up a satellite campus in here. And so I had approached Central about being our first partner, and I said, I want to do the big screen. Anything and everything that we would give to somebody in the community, I want to give to these guys because I want to show them that they are worth this much. And so we did the full setup with the big IMAX theater experience, over $100,000 worth of technology that we donated and installed inside of the facility so that these guys had an opportunity to attend a quality church service and be a part of a church family while they were incarcerated, in hopes that we would get their family members plugged into the church before they're ever even released, making that kind of bridge between prison and freedom seamless, and that they had a community that loved them and that would surround them before they were ever released from prison. And so on Christmas Eve 2009, we launched our very first satellite campus inside of a women's facility. It's the largest, but really the only women's facility inside of the state of Nevada. And then since then have grown out to 70 plus different physical church plants inside of prisons all across the U.S. And now through the Pando app, streaming in over 450 prisons and jails nationwide. And that's about to double this year. So, but often we feel unqualified, unprepared to do God's will and His work here on earth, and really recognizing like, hey, it's not my might that's going to carry this through. It's His power, His glory. And so He's going to provide everything I need. And so someone who was unqualified, that many people would have looked at and said, who's this 18-year-old kid who just gave his life to Christ? And what is his authority in bringing in church plants inside of prisons all across the U.S.? I had none, but I did have a big God who had my back with a big vision that spread it throughout.
No, that first get together on Christmas. So is there a name even, God Behind Bars, and is that legitimately the very first service that you had? Like, explain some of that.
Yeah, God Behind Bars had become a name by then. I had already formed that nonprofit.
Yep.
And I was doing just these little jail Bible studies. The name God Behind Bars, actually, I believe it came from my wife, but my wife told me when we were dating that I had told her I was going to start a ministry called God Behind Bars. I don't remember that at all, but so our perspectives and stories are like normal couples where they don't align. But yeah, I thought she had given me that name of what it would be called, and but yeah, somehow God Behind Bars came about, depending on who you ask, and it's been the brand that we carry. That's exactly what we try to do is bring the glory of God behind bars in everything that we do, whether it be through family reunification, technology with the church plants that we're doing through the Pando app, or even into our reentry efforts as we prepare them to be released and come back home into society.
That's so good. Before I go kind of God Behind Bars for a second, I just want to acknowledge again, like, that's pretty outrageous for you to do all that. Like 18, you're a new Christian. Anything else that you would say to somebody who feels like God has put something on their heart and they just feel totally unqualified? Like, man, this, like, probably even have people saying like, dude, you're not ready for this. Like, well, anything you'd say, because that's legit, Jake. Like, my church is now impacting people for Christ because of you. Like, that's unbelievable. Anything that you would say to somebody who's like, man, what, but I can't, or I shouldn't, or what, anything you'd say to that person?
Yeah, I think often us as people, and I get it, we're all different personalities, different types. Some people are ultra planners, some are not. But too often we kind of say to God, like, hey, you show and then I'll go. Versus if you read the Bible, whether it be through Moses all the way back to Abraham and Lot, God said, you go and then I'll show. And so I think taking the approach and the mindset of that, like, hey, I'm going to go and expect God to show, is the approach that you have to have in everything that God's putting on your heart. Because if you're waiting for all of the pieces to align and the ducks to be in a row, then you're basically leaving God out of the equation. You're remaining in control and putting him in the back seat versus like I kind of let my hands completely off the wheel, like that song, Jesus Take the Wheel. Like truly, in my life, like I'm gonna let him take the wheel, and I'm gonna put him in the full seat of control, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take my first step, and then I'm gonna let him show me the different opportunities and ultimately the pathway and direction that he wants me to head.
That's so good. So it's been said that inmates are the largest population in America that's unreached. Why is that? Like explain just that for someone who doesn't have any connection to prisons. And I think that's actually a fewer amount of people than we know. Share that though. Like why is that the most unreached?
Yeah, which you're exactly right. 25% of the U.S. population has had someone directly in their immediate family, whether they've been in them themselves or know somebody that has been into prison. So 25% of the population has been affected by incarceration, and obviously that's a pretty daunting stat, and so it can't go unrecognized. And I truly believe that prisons are often under-resourced because people don't know how to get started. Like, let's be real. It's even though they are in our country, it's like going into a foreign country every single time. Obviously, they have their own rules, laws, languages, everything that they function by inside of correctional facilities, and each one is different. And so it can be a pretty daunting task to say, hey, I want to go reach people with the gospel inside of prisons. But that's what God Behind Bars has really made their mission about. It's not only introducing them to Jesus, but to connect them to the local church. And so what we have kind of taken on the role of is, hey, we are going to make it as seamless and easy as possible for our church partners to go and plant a church inside of prisons and function in there on a weekly basis. We want to give them the greatest and largest platform that we can possibly give them so that they can have the impact inside of those facilities. And that's become our mission over the years, is to really kind of lift up the local church and make them the staple in whom we connect the inmate populations is with that we serve, because we believe at God Behind Bars that we're just a season of their life, that the local church is the rest of their life.
That's so good. Okay, so as Christians, we're called to visit those in prison, but a majority of Jesus followers never set foot in a prison. Oh, even just in general, not even GBB first. How do we change that? Like, what's practical steps that I can take if I'm not a pastor of a church and I just want to make an impact in the lives of prisoners? Any advice that you'd give on that? And then the second part is specifically with GBB. Talk just in general, though. Like, I want to be used by God. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Matthew 25 is a verse that I think we're all familiar with. If you've been around the Bible at all throughout the course of your life, that you've read Matthew 25, and usually you read clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, visiting the sick, visiting those that are in prison as if you were there yourself. And we kind of look at it as like that kind of social justice lens of like, oh yeah, those things are all cute and good. But I read that verse entirely differently. I felt like Jesus was saying, like, you can't possibly love me without loving these people.
Whoa.
Here is where my heart is. And so this is where I need your heart to be. And so I read that Matthew 25 with a totally different conviction. And it came from like, I need you to have this heart. I need you to view the world this way and view these people in this way, because this is the way that I view them. And so my conviction, in fact, it even even the reason why we do things at the level that we do them is not biblical, but it comes from the show Les Mis. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's with Hugh Jackman. It's
one
a
of my
show.
all-time favorites.
Yeah, and there's a scene in the show where Hugh Jackman had just got out of prison. He gets taken in to this clergyman's house, and in the middle of the night, he robs the clergyman and his wife, and he leaves, and he's found in the streets by the Roman guards, and he has all of this silver and stuff that he took from him, and they knew that it wasn't his and where it came from, so they dragged him back to the clergyman's house, and they knock on the door, and they say, "Hey, did he steal from you?" Talking about Hugh Jackman. "Did he steal these things from you?" And the clergyman looks at Hugh Jackman in the eyes and he says, "My son, why did you leave so early? All you had to do is tell me. You forgot all these things." And he runs through his house and he grabs all of his best silver and he comes out and puts it in Hugh Jackman's bag. And it was that undeserving grace that changes Hugh Jackman in the course of his life to where he dedicates it towards doing good. And I feel the same thing about Jesus. I feel the same thing about what we do inside of prisons, and why we do them at the level that we do them is because it's saying to them, like, you are worth this much.
It's good.
And the undeserving grace that people often feel unworthy of, that causes them to ask why and to change the things in their heart and want to be different. And so I kind of have built this mission and try to live my life by that model.
And so maybe like a first step, though, is just if you know of someone in prison, reaching out to them, meeting with them, writing letters. Is that what you'd tell us? Like if I know a cousin or if I have a friend, is any advice? Yeah.
One of the biggest compliments and most consistent compliments that we get when we go inside of a prison is, "Thank you for not forgetting about me." And so that tells me right there that these individuals already are alone, they're isolated, and they're forgetting, or they're feeling forgotten. And so a simple letter or a simple phone call, just to check in with someone, if you know someone personally that's incarcerated, is definitely is worth all of the time in the world, because it could be life-changing for them.
That's so good. And I was just going to tell you the same thing. Every week, the inmates at our Durfee campus, they keep telling our team, our volunteers, "We can't believe you keep coming back. Why you're driving 2 hours to come worship with us each week. Why do you keep coming back?" And just that power of just showing up. I think a lot of people are hesitant because it's like, what am I going to say to them? What am I going to do? Just be present, whether it's over the phone or by mail or in person. Like, I think that can make a huge impact. Okay, so I'll just share this. If you are a pastor or a leader of a church and there is a prison anywhere close to you, even if it's 2 hours away, like the prison that we're a part of, like, I want to challenge you, reach out to God Behind Bars, talk with them, see, is this a possibility with the institution close to us? We've been blown away, and I'm not being told to say this. They're not a partner of the podcast. There's no reason for me to tell you. This has been one of the best things our church has ever done. Before it, I had several pastor friends tell me, your church, this will be their favorite thing that you get to be a part of. And I can't say enough about that. So if you are interested, if you're a pastor or a leader of a church, or even just a part of a church and you know your pastor or a leader, bring it up to them. Hey, I think this would be a cool thing that we could be a part of. Away from that, Jake, any other things like, tell us, like, how can we be a part of what God Behind Bars is doing? Giving wise, even that, like whether it's towards the Pando app, tell us any practical things there. I want to share that before we continue on.
Yeah, if you have the heart to give, of course, we would welcome that. We'll welcome prayer, volunteer, whatever you guys want to do. We're literally in 30 different states across the U.S., expected to be in 50 states in the next 5 years. And so we need as much involvement as we can. Even if we grew to the largest that we believe that this vision can grow to, it would still be only making a dent in what is actually possible behind the walls of prison. And so, yeah, we could use all the support you can get. And then obviously the Pando app is another great avenue for your church to get involved. If you don't feel like you have the means or the time to make a full investment inside of an actual campus inside of a prison, the Pando app is an unbelievable way to still have an amazing impact, and it's on a more global reach. In fact, we have over 1.7 million users now on the Pando app. We just signed a contract for basically doubling the amount of tablets that we're currently on. So that would double the amount of people that we have the opportunity of reaching across the US. And so that's just basically uploading whatever content you want to upload that you feel like you want to share faith-wise with the inmate population, and creating that consistent audience inside of prisons on an ongoing basis. And so really simple. We've have hundreds of churches and other content creators like The Chosen, Bible Project, and others that upload their content. And it's almost like a Netflix of faith-based content for these guys to engage with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at their fingertips. And so, yeah, anything and everything that you feel called to when it comes to prison ministry, God Behind Bars would love to have you a part of our family.
That's awesome. And if you do nothing else, just go follow their Instagram account. If you want to have a good cry, like every day, several times a day, just go follow their account and check that out. Jake, I think one of the people who are often hidden the most, even away from the inmates, are their families. Any advice to anybody listening on how to care for a family of someone who has a loved one who's incarcerated? Any advice there, what that looks like? And, again, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, let's not talk about it and let's not even address it. And so we just end up ignoring people instead of getting closer to them.
Yeah, I know one thing that I have a soft spot in my heart for is the single moms and the children, and just the things that they're facing. Obviously, the absence for those kids away from their dad or their mom is something pretty traumatic, and they just need a whole lot of love. And I think surrounding them with that kind of love and helping create joy in their life, and knowing that God's not over in their story, and that there's reconciliation to be had with their parent. And I think that message is all too often missed. And it is vitally important. In fact, they say that there's about 10.8 million kids in the U.S. that have a parent that is incarcerated. And so our team, and to that point, that 85% of them, because their parent is incarcerated, they're 85% more likely to go to prison or jail themselves because that has impacted their family at that level. And so our team has taken an intentional focus with the family reunification and getting mom or dad connected back into their kids' lives before they're ever released from prison. We host a variety of different events and programs across the U.S. that allow us to do that. And so if you know somebody that has a parent or a husband or a wife that's in prison, we would love for you to reach out and get us involved with them, because family reunification is a staple to not only impacting today, but raising up legacies and generations of Christ followers for tomorrow.
Friends, I hope you enjoy today's conversation. I need to thank today's guest, Jake Bodine. Jake, thank you so much for the time. More than that, thanks for the impact that you're having. Thanks to today's partner, Vern ID Motor Cars. Friends, go visit vernid.com. Go check out a vehicle. If you're needing one, go find one there. Lastly, but not leastly, thanks to each and every one of you who listened to the conversation. I am so grateful. Have a great rest of your day.